Welcome, Tony Smith here. I want to open up the official start of the 2020 Mike Ferry Superstar Retreat Bonus Day Sessions. We have this incredible celebration of Mike Ferry's 45th anniversary in business. And today, we've lined up some of the best agents in North America in an interview format for you. We've got Gene Tanner, we've got Hal Swayze, we've got Scott Tucker, we've got Carlos Gutierrez, we have Roxanne DeBerry, and we have Ren Jones, all on deck ready to give you some of their thoughts about how to grow your business and thrive today. So how this is going to work, we're going to roll these videos over and over until we run out of time. So if you miss something, wait for it, it's going to come back around. I am excited for this official kickoff. I'm excited for the bonus days. I hope you're ready. I hope you're set. Let's get this thing started with a bang. Sit back, enjoy the ride. Thanks. Welcome. Here we are, bonus day. What an incredible day of action we have today lined up for you. I am over the moon excited about a chance to spend some time with Gene Tanner. Anytime we get a chance to spend time with Gene, it is just incredible. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Let's kick it off. Let's kick it off a little bit. Let's look at, first of all, right away. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you? Who are you? What are you about?
Okay, well, I work the Salt Lake City and Utah County area in Utah. I've been a realtor for about 37 plus years. I hate to keep saying how many years it is and more. But over the years, I've sold, I think, right around 4,000 homes.
Wow. So 37 years in the business, had 4,000 sales. First of all, for anybody watching that gets a true understanding of what that means, just think about it for yourself for a second. How incredible that is for somebody. First of all, 37 years selling and that kind of volume of sales. That is a lot of consistency.
It is. It's a lot of prospecting, Tony.
Boy, I'll tell you. And I remember the days. Do you remember the days back, 15 years ago, 18 years ago, where we used to meet here in Las Vegas?
Tony lived in Apple Valley and I live in Utah, and we would meet in Las Vegas and prospect the first 1 or 2 days in Las Vegas every month.
And that went on
for
how long?
Tony. Those were fun days.
We did that for years.
Yes, quite a few years we did that. Yes, it's just the accountability of having someone else there with you and listening to you and critiquing, giving you a few techniques. It was great fun.
Boy, I tell you, I learned so much in those times. It was right when I was really lifting my company off, and we just grew through those times. So there's really two issues today that I want to cover, and it's two of the things that I really honestly admire most about you. And I've always had this just deep level of respect. And I know the people watching are going to really appreciate and love. I hope you're taking some great notes on this. So the first question I'd like to ask is, many of the people watching are not that great, or they struggle with business planning. And what I've noticed from you over all the years is you have found a really great way to plan out your business. Would you be willing to share a few tips about how you plan and how that works for you?
You know, I am the queen of 90-day cycles. So I always buy a little book just for the 90-day cycles. And I keep it on my desk. I take it everywhere I go with me. And I just focus on what I want to accomplish in the 90 days. You know, a lot of agents out there will focus on their business plans. It's just too much for me to think of the end result or the end goal. I like to just focus on the day-to-day and what I need to do that day.
So you've worked on, have you always worked on these 90-day cycles?
Mostly, but I've really intensified the last couple of years just because what happened to me as a kid, I played the piano. One of my goals was to focus on playing the piano better. And I was just made a goal to practice for 15 minutes a day. But at the end of 30 days, I was so incredibly shocked at how much better I got. I thought about how could I apply that with my business as far as that goes. And so I started really 1Xing, 2Xing my focus on what I was doing every day, and it made a huge, huge difference. So I just really am a believer in set a 90-day cycle, pay attention to your energy level, your focus level, and that's what's really been powerful for me. So I have always kept a little magnifier on my desk. It goes back to the days of having to read the old title books. But, as a kid, I think I was a little bit of a pyromaniac, Tony. My brother and I, we would go out in the backyard and focus the sun until we could burn leaves. And I really thought about that principle in life, that if you really laser focus in on something you're really trying to get better at or improve in, you start a fire. You can't help but not. It's just a principle of, I call it the principle of focus or the focus factor. So about a couple of years ago, I really started paying attention to whatever it is I'm doing to focus in on, what my normal level was. At the time it was about 60%. So I thought, okay, just while I'm prospecting today, I'm going to be 70%. And I was shocked that my results doubled. And then I focused on, okay, what if you're just 80%? They doubled again. And so by the time I hit 90% focus during a certain number of hours, honestly, my results 5 times themselves. So, I keep a little timer on my desk. I can't stay laser focused for really a long time. And I'll say, okay, I'm going to be laser focused for 45 minutes, nothing else. But that is very powerful. I've always made a game of, let's see if I can do a CMA in 5 minutes. So it's just helped to push past that level. So.
Wow, what an interesting concept. So many things here. First of all, I hope you're not still pyromaniac today.
No. Well, what I think about today, Tony, really, is I want my magnifying glass this big.
Okay.
I don't want the little one anymore. So yeah. I'm focusing on making my magnifying glass bigger.
It's an excellent thought. So 90-day cycles, really understanding how incrementally as you focus the results from that incremental focus are 2, 3, 4, 5 times of the results by the focus you
can. It takes off very, very quickly.
Right. So. And then what I really like best is you mentioned this whole idea of staying focused for a window of time, 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. And you've got a little reminder there sitting right on your desk.
I've never been diagnosed, but I'm pretty positive I'm ADD. Okay. And so I have to pay attention to make myself focus.
Oh, it's awesome. And in today's world, how does that translate today? After all these years running a business and you've got a company, you've got agents, you've got your own production still churning along. What are some examples of where you're trying to focus today?
Well, anyone can sell a house right now. So I think a lot of agents get really sucked into, oh yes, I'm doing so great, I'm doing so well. But I'm really focusing on my customer service. And the bottom line is I really feel it's very important to be a problem solver. So I always say to myself, solve, serve, and give value. And so I think that's the difference in agents that get listings and those who don't, is you've got to really define how you give value. So I had to sit down and say, how does Jean Tanner give value? I can go in and do a listing approach, but why should they pay me $20,000, $30,000 on a transaction? They could probably sell it themselves. So you have to set yourself above what you think you could do. So I think that's really important, is to learn where your value is, define it and know it, and really internalize it.
Wow. So could you repeat those 3 words again?
Yes. Solve, serve, and give value.
Solve, serve, and give value. Man, I got to tell you, if you didn't write that down, those of you watching, what an incredibly powerful example. It just shows why I admire the way you plan.
It's simple. It's really simple.
You always have kind of a real grounded, down-to-earth view of planning and running your business. Why is that?
Well, Sabrina years ago gave me an affirmation many years ago. And I've said it to there are really only 2 affirmations I say to myself every day. But the first one I got from Sabrina is, my willingness to change is my greatest asset. And so I think, I started when we had an MLS book and we had to look through a book. We didn't even have cell phones. I was the first realtor in my area with a cell phone. And so, I think that your focus is on your willingness to change and adapt. And this is a hot market. Everybody thinks it's hot, but I think you have to really dig in and look at how your listing values are. One of my builders said to me the other day, Jean, we're not going to sell any more homes. The lumber has doubled very, very quickly, and we're not moving forward. I can't even sell homes. And had I not been working on all my single transactions, of prospecting, that would really hurt. So don't get too focused on big package or, big land deals that I've done. That's carried me a lot too, but I just focus on the one.
So the day-to-day, one at a time, and then when the big
Yeah.
packages and the builders come about, of course, you take those too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's
sure.
so grounded. It's just such a grounded, real approach. The second area that I really want us to dive into is something that we've really noticed this year. COVID, some of the things going on, some of our best agents around the country and the world. And we've kind of got this realization that we teach, and in MFO, a lot of our agents learn how to make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And they have figured out how to do, 25, 50, 75, 100, 150 deals a year, which is just a lot of revenue. However, at the same time, we've had this little kind of an alarming notice that many, many people have not done such a great job at keeping the money they earn. And this is the second place that I just really respect you for, is that you have always demonstrated this incredible ability, not only to make a fortune, but keep most of it. So what advice could you give me and everybody else that's watching about how do you keep more of the money you make?
Not most of it, because my CPA would make me save 90% if it was up to him. But I told him, no, I want to enjoy my life more than that.
Okay.
But I think the biggest difference really is you have to buy real estate. I think so many people don't do that. They don't plan it, or they write the goal, I'm going to buy one home this year. I personally try to buy 2 a year. So in my area, for example, you could buy a home for $350,000. And I always personally put down 25%, which is about $87,500. So for me to save for that, I have to put away $7,300 a month. Or if I want to buy 2 homes, $15,000 a month. So you have to reverse plan and make sure you're buying real estate. I've lost a ton of money investing with my buddies, startup companies, and in the stock market. I have never lost money in real estate. So I think the main thing is just really focusing on keeping your own money. That's the main thing. I mean, at one time I had a team of 7, and I think my highest number I sold was about 290 homes in a year back in the 90s. That was a long time ago. But what I learned is I didn't make very much money. It was not profitable. So I think you have to look at your profitability, and every time you add a team member to your staff, your profitability goes down. Now, if you don't want to work, I think there's a lot of agents that think they don't want to be in the day-to-day business, but I do. I think it's the only way you can control your profitability. So I'm all about profitability.
So 2 major points there. One is what we do is sell real estate. So you have to buy it and really understand what it takes to consistently buy real estate, which requires saving money in a lot of ways to be able to buy it.
Well, it requires a reverse plan. You can't just think, I'm going to buy a rental this year. And then partly too, in my calendar, you'll see every Friday at 3 p.m., I visit my money. I go in and I look at all my accounts. I see how much they've grown, what's in there, what my balances are. And so, I'm looking at what it's growing. And, the agents in my office that I coach, one of the requirements for them is they have to show me their bank statements every month, because it doesn't matter how many homes you sell if you're not accruing wealth.
So visit your money every week.
Focus on accruing wealth.
Boy, I got to tell you, I don't know how many brokers and owners of companies, big or small, ever ask for a bank statement out of people that they're coaching or working with that's in their company.
They'll do it. They'll do it for me because they want to be wealthy.
Yeah. I wonder how many people watching would be afraid to show their bank statement right now.
Yes.
It's okay, but they have to fix it. And some of your advice on how to fix that is just off the charts.
I go to my CPA every month, and he does that to me. So I have that accountability with him as well.
Some people haven't visited their money all year this year yet, and you're doing it regularly.
Yes, every Friday. And then I meet with my CPA the second week of every month.
It's so great. So let's shift gears a little bit.
Say that's overkill, but that's how you know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's obviously worked, right?
The scorecard.
So let's shift gears. 37 years in the business, and one thing I know about you is you're always changing, which you mentioned earlier from an affirmation. You're always growing and adapting. Share with us something after 37 years. What are you working on today in your business?
Working really the focus is the thing I work on the very most. I focus on getting over things quicker. Mike's often said, it's our reaction to things that really sets us back. So I'm focusing on not overreacting, or, and I know I've made progress, because sometimes I hear other agents say, oh, this happened, that happened, this happened. Well, get over it. It's done. Move on. So I think always, always, always it's maintaining and working on a higher mindset. That's why I'm trying to make my magnifying glass bigger, so I can burn more. So, but I think that's energy. I love Mike's talk about attitude, approach, and expectations. If you just focus on those three things, I expect to get 2 listing appointments every time I prospect. And so that's my focus, is really focusing on that particular time of working towards that.
What's awesome is some of the fundamental basics you announced, and you still had your face lit up when you talked about it. Focus on setting 2 appointments when I prospect, right? Focus on letting things go quicker, not overreacting. And you're still it looks to be just as excited about those today as you were 20 years ago.
Well, and there's a lot of days I don't feel like it. I think that's the difference between success or not, is grinding through monotonous boredom. And it's the same thing with playing the piano or anything else. I'm a cyclist. I like to bike ride 20, 30 miles every morning. And there are mornings I do not want to get out of bed at 5 o'clock and go in the dark, but I do. I never miss. I'm like clockwork.
It's really magic to watch it, for sure. So one last question, in the interest of everyone's time in this interview. We have a lot of people that have registered and are getting involved with this 45th anniversary Superstar Retreat for the first time. And they've really not had a lot of exposure to Mike Ferry. And this is their first, trip to the event. What advice would you give to somebody that's coming here for the first time?
You've got to hang in there. Success does not come overnight. The mistake I made at the first of my career was I would go to all these different conferences and listen to many different words of advice, and I would just pick one coach. I love Mike Ferry coaching because, I've loved all my coaches. I've loved all the things I've learned, but when I think you go to the Mike Ferry events, you meet people who are like you. In my area, I don't have that many friends that are as driven as I am, so I love to go to Mike Ferry and see, oh, I'm not driven at all compared to some of those. So I think the networking that we get from coming to Mike Ferry, and I just say, hang in there. Just hang in there and grind through it, and don't give up on yourself. I think it's possible to make lots and lots of money in this business, but I like it because I can make lots and lots of money and give back to family and friends, and that's important to me.
I know this about you, and your generosity and your contribution to the world and your community and all things has been off the charts, which is one of the byproducts of you making a lot of money and figuring this thing out. But really, just stick in there, start finding the associations. Even in this virtual world, you can find a lot of associations. You can start reaching out. You can start calling people that are in this Mike Ferry organization and start developing your center of influence in MFO.
Well, I had one coach once. She about made me crazy, but every single call, she would say, what do you want? I don't know. Well, what do you want? You've got to define what you want. And that was just so intense. So for 2 years, what do you want? And, I thought I knew what I want, but the more it takes a while to really figure that out. And you've got to want it or it will never happen.
So just a repetitive ask yourself, what do you want on a regular basis?
I still do that. So I write down, what do I want to accomplish today? What do you want today, Jean? And if sometimes I only get 3 things out of my top 10, I always write a list of 10 things I want to accomplish today, and I try to shoot for getting every one of those done.
It's amazing. The little tips and nuggets that you give us just in a short little time are off the charts as always. I wish we could go on for hours and hours, and I think everybody would enjoy that as well, but we're being true to time. I just have to thank you. Anytime we get to spend any time together like this, it's special for me. I hope it's special for everybody watching. I hope you took a lot of notes. Thank you, Jean Tanner.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody.
Welcome back. We are at the bonus day, the 2020 Superstar Retreat for Mr. Mike Ferry 45th anniversary. We're continuing this trend of some interviews with the best agents in North America. And I am pleased and thrilled and honored to spend a little time with my friend, Mr. Hal Swayze.
Hi, Tony. Thanks for having me.
How are you? Welcome.
Good. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you just fine.
Perfect.
Good, thanks. So we're going to jump right in true Mike Ferry fashion. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work in the central coast of California, San Luis Obispo, a little county of about 250,000 people, about 100 miles north of Santa Barbara. Work for Remax Del Oro, have a great broker here, Randy Steiger. And yeah, we're if you need to reach me, our number is 805-781-3750, and just happy to be a part of the Mike Ferry organization, especially in a year like this year.
I like it for sure. Yeah. Right. And so how long have you been selling real estate?
This will be my 29th year.
Wow. 29 years went pretty fast, didn't it?
Scary.
So
scary and frightening at the same time, both scary and frightening. Yeah.
29 years. It's fun. We're always getting a measuring stick. What is your idea of a goal for production this year, and what does that represent in income for you?
Sure. So the goal this year is 156 closed transactions between me and my buyer team, and income for $2 million.
So 156 transactions, $2 million.
Yes.
Is that normal for you? Is that above normal? What's that look like?
My best year ever, I think, was 2000. I did 2.7 million and 197. So last year we came a little bit below goal. So we wanted to make it very realistic, and we're going to surpass our goal this year. So we're excited about that.
Yes, and what it looks like in the midst of everything going on, you're actually going to blow through your goal this year.
Yeah.
Everything is tracking that way for sure.
Right.
So one of the things I've always been curious about is you've been selling real estate at a real high volume for a lot of years in a place that isn't a huge city with thousands and thousands of deals. Tell us about San Luis Obispo in terms of how many people are there.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's about 45,000 people that live in San Luis proper, and then we have a few little small communities 10 to 12 miles away that I service. Countywide, it's about 250,000, but it's a pretty small market. Like in San Luis Obispo, we'll have 80 to 100 properties for sale at a given time. That's our active inventory. And as the market's heated up, obviously those are selling faster. So yeah, there's pluses and minuses to working into a smaller market, but there's certainly enough opportunities for us to achieve our goals.
Yeah, so 45,000 people, you think about this, there's 80 to 100 properties on the market at any given time. And you always have approximately how many homes for sale?
15 to 25 in that range. Yeah, low is 15, high 25, 30 in that range. Yeah.
So it's safe to say that you have a dominant market share there in the place that you work.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah.
Thanks to your help.
Well, we have a lot of people that are not in huge cities that belong to Mike Ferry that are probably watching this retreat, maybe even for the first time. What are some tips you could give somebody of how you could be that kind of a dominant force in a small space like that?
Well, it depends on your time in the business. When I was new, I didn't know many people. So it was just, again, small market, you don't have many expired. So it was a lot of just making a lot of contacts, talking to a lot of people. And what moved me to a higher level is really realizing it's just not all about cold calling. I got kind of confused, didn't listen to Mike's message like I should have, and then really started to develop my sphere of influence and working my past clients and working on my service. So one of the things I share with a lot of people that I find interesting that maybe not as many do as they could is I'm always looking for ways to add to my sphere of influence, right? So for example, when my kids were younger and I was earlier in my career, I was coaching soccer. I would call the parents up one by one and just say, "Hey, Tony, I don't know if you know this or not, but I sell real estate for a living." And 90% or 7% would say, "Sure, we're aware of that," or "No, we're not." Well, gosh, do you have anybody in real estate that you can count on and rely on if you ever have questions or need any help? And most of the time it was no, and once in a while it was yes, they know someone. And then I would simply ask, "Gosh, do you mind if I be that resource if you ever have any questions or need anything?" And 90% of the time it was, "Yeah, sure, that's fine, Hal, you seem nice enough," because nobody else is doing it, right? Nobody else is doing it. So if you're the only one doing it, it makes it easy. And then I just touch base, follow up, they become part of my sphere. And that's how I grew my sphere of influence. So when there's ups and downs in the marketplace, that sphere and those past clients are always a stable source of business.
Wow. So you in the beginning, naturally, let's cold call, right? Calling
Right.
anybody and everybody, banging
Yes.
away on the phone. That's a lot
Right.
of people that maybe jump into Mike Ferry, right?
Yes.
At what point did you really grab this idea of growing this database?
Oh, do I have to give you that answer? It's kind of embarrassing. Yeah. So I was probably, I'm going to say 10 years in, 9 years into the business, right? Yeah. And if you want to do it the hard way, you can cold call all the time. But if you take Mike's advice and what you preach to us, do a great job for your clients, stay in touch, be that resource. And when I sit down with my clients, I always kind of say, you remember back in the day, people used to have that family doctor, right? The one that would come to the house. If you ever had a medical question, you call them. My job is to be the family realtor, right? So just call me up if you need anything. That's how I try to position myself with my clients and people that I've come into contact with.
It's just great advice. So first of all, those of you watching, don't take the slow path to it. Don't wait 10 years. You've done a really fantastic job coming in and doing it from that point forward.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing that we look at for you is you have developed a small team.
Yes.
And the big attraction over the last 4 or 5 years in the real estate industry is this whole team concept, teams, right? And so from somebody who's done it and is obviously really successful at it,
Sure.
what are some tips, and then maybe even what are some precautions? If you had an inclination to maybe build a small team, tips and precautions.
Well, gosh, I mean, when you're starting out, I started with one part-time assistant, and listen to Mike, you need to be about 30 to 40 transactions, I think is the magic number, and you should have some help, right? If you're that productive, delegate some of those opportunities, delegate some of that work that you could get caught up in with that takes you away from production. And then over time, I just developed a team. So I had an assistant for a while, and then that assistant would help me show some houses because I wasn't that good at it. And it's like, well, let's get someone to help take over some of that person's job, and maybe they'll be a lead assistant. You have a support person. I'm in a college town, right? So you get somebody in their 20s that's interested and can run errands and do things. And so, that got me to 50 to 75 transactions. And then when I got to 100, it's more like, wow, I need a full-time assistant, and let's make this other person a showing agent full-time, right? So that they can take on some of the buyers. So that took me a while. And then you go to, okay, maybe somebody's going to focus on the listings and somebody's going to focus on the buyers when you're between 100 and 150 for me, right? And then, I've gone the route where I've had one really good buyer's agent, and then I've gone the route where, gosh, if that person's busy or whatever, it's just too much to service and it taxes the whole team. So now I have 3 buyer's agents, right? And so my job is to provide the leads for them. Their job is to convert them, right? And take the time to service those buyers. So it's a more balanced approach for me at this point. But if you're at 100, if you have one showing agent or buyer's agent and want to refer them out, that's great. But there's way more profitability than trying to add a bunch of agents and not have the production to support them. You've got to be out there listing properties, and then it makes sense to have a buyer or showing agent and a small team.
It's great. And you described it in detail, like the incremental additions to the team. Today's times, we see a lot of people that their thought is, let's have 5 buyer's agents on day 3 in the business and 4 assistants, and let's go there. And so did you ever lose sight of generating listings during this whole thing?
No, I think if I did err on something, I probably erred on not having enough people on the team, where people were really, it was a little too hair on fire in the office and people were kind of stressed out. So I probably went the other direction in being probably too conservative with bringing people on, right? But I like to keep it simple and clean. Over time, I've developed some leadership skills. I've developed some skills where I can help people develop a little bit more, and the systems so that you can keep people productive and the culture where they want to come to work and help serve our clients. So, yeah, having a team is helpful if you have the production, and it's whether or not you need to add someone to prepare for growth, or you get to the growth and then add them. And that's the question somebody's going to be asking their coach about.
Boy,
Everybody's a little different.
There's so much in what you said. You developed your leadership, right? You developed a culture. You brought people on as your generation of listings went up and up and up, right? Boy, if somebody that's thinking about a team, any other cautions? If someone's out there going, I think I want to have this team thing, I want to do what Hal does. Any bewares?
Well, hiring, it's taken me a while, but getting the right people to help you hire is critically important. I think as salespeople, we love to be able to say yes because we get no so often. So, I mean, honestly, I'm going to say this half jokingly, but half seriously, that, somebody comes in and they go, I look at them and go, they seem great, right? Bring them on. Let's see. Oops. Okay. Wasn't the right person. So making sure you have help in vetting the right people, making sure you're going to have to spend some time and some training using the resources that you provide to make sure you got the right people. So being a little more diligent in hiring, because let's face it, that's probably not our strength, right? Some people are good at that. Some come from a management background, some come from a business background, but I think that's a small percent. For most of us, we have to develop that. So you got to be very cautious, have your broker interview the person, get very clear on what you're looking for, the type of person, the skill set, have another agent interview them, have somebody you trust and respect. I know someone that's been in management a long time. I have them come talk to people even before me. Because if I talk to them, I think it's a prospect. I want to just let's get it signed and get them on board, right? So no thinking involved. So that would be the thing. Really take your time in who you select to work for you. Hire slow for sure.
I love it. Hire slow. And what's great about it, just completely ego-free, Hal. Step out of that role. You recognize maybe what you're not great at. It wasn't what you were trained to do. So maybe have a professional take a look, or somebody that does that for a living look at it, and make sure that you hire the right people. Do you have what you need right now for your career as far as the team goes?
We're making some changes. So I think we've got a great solid team, but to go to the next level, we'll probably hire some people. But again, as I make some transitions in my business, it's identifying what that role is and then getting very clear on it, right?
You're going to follow the same process you have, slow and easy and incremental?
Absolutely. Because it's so wonderful when you get the right person versus struggling along with someone that's not the right fit. And for us, having dealt with some, issues internally, we all deal with them. It's like, what are our core values? What are we looking for? So I'm looking at them right now. And in my office, if you're not a team player, you shouldn't be working here, right? And either they live up to it or it becomes very apparent that they're not team players, right? The second one we have is we put our client's interest first, okay? This is not about the dollar before the client. So we have to make sure in many fashions our client's interests are ahead of our own. And then lastly, we're results oriented, right? If you're not excited about or motivated by getting results, doesn't matter what position you have, you're probably not going to fit in the team. So getting clear on those was making it it's made it more helpful to identify who fits and who doesn't. And we put a lot of our tough decisions up against those core values and who we bring on the team against those core values.
Well, man, I heard it loud and clear, right? You got to be a team player. You got to be customer service oriented, and you've got to get the results.
Yes.
If anybody didn't write that down, you're making a huge mistake.
Yeah.
So what's next? I mean, what do you have in your radar? Are you looking for another level of production right after this breakthrough?
Yeah, no, so I would say for now, at this juncture, almost 30 years in the business, for me, I love what I do, but I work a lot of hours, 50, 60 hours, not uncommon. My wife keeps asking me my first name when I come home sometimes. So that's just my nature. I like to work hard. So I'm trying to really make it so that I get to spend more time with the activities that I'm good at, which would be presenting, right? Helping solve some problems, a little coaching and mentoring within my office, right? So that means I'm going to try to back down my hours a little bit, but I also believe I can do as much or more production, right? So it's about me being more effective. And gosh, you started with me coaching it the first year, and we've really gotten me more effective from the number of people I have to talk to get a listing way down. God, I got to tell you, that's fun, right? So for me, it's being more focused in my time and who I speak to, being selective, and then the skills, and I've done this a long time, and there's just little nuances that can really make a difference in my qualifying and my presentation to get me where I'm reducing my contacts in half to get the same production. So that's my goal, right?
What's so neat about that is you found this space with time. You've driven this production up, and you believe that you could get at least this much production, if not more, and you can start getting a little bit more of that time back for you.
Yeah.
That's like perfect world.
I'm loving it. I'm excited about it.
Keep that up for sure.
I need your help though. Without you guys,
we're going to keep working on it.
I can't do it. So thank you for being there for us.
You're so welcome. You're doing the work. I'm just here along for the ride. It's great.
Yeah.
But we always do this in typical Mike Ferry fashion. We always look at if you had this window of time with people that have been here for the first time to a Mike Ferry event. Some people have been here 30 years just like you. Every year we learn a little bit more about what the secret is, if you will. What are a couple pieces of advice you'd like to give us all?
Gosh, I've learned so much over the years. So we went through a warm, good market, then we had a pandemic, and now in California you have forest fires. We have all sorts of things going on. And I remember when things got the worst, I would say to my people, the people that work with me, because a lot of them were scared. None of us knew what was going to happen, right? Am I going to die? Somebody gets sick. How far is this going to go? Is the real estate market fall out? All those thoughts can enter your head, right? But you can't let them stay there. And I always try to put things in context. I mean, I live on the central coast of California, right? I'm not, putting down asphalt. I'm not a roofer in the hot sun when it's 100 degrees. We have to have that in context. And I would tell my people, listen, this event that we were going through at the time, which seems to have, subsided somewhat. I think there's a lot of more normalcy, but we don't know what's going to happen. This is not like a war where people have guns and you see your friend get shot and they're bleeding out on the street, right? This is not that kind of war. And just the fact that we could be in that situation makes this seem a little bit easier to deal with, okay? But I said it's a war of the mind, right? I mean, I saw them bleeding out mentally, right? Mentally because of this. Mm-hmm. And, those people that can control their mindset can be a leader amongst their teams and their clients, amongst the vendors, because I was coaching everybody that worked with me. Listen, the lenders are nervous. The title company's nervous. Everybody's nervous. Somebody needs to take the lead. We need to help inspire them that it's going to be okay, that we're going to get through this. And we're really serving the public by helping them do what we do. We're enriching people's lives through the vehicle of real estate, but just in our everyday conversations, right? So I think we take this as an opportunity where the market's doing what it's doing now, going up, or if it shifts and goes down, to be the leader, to inspire other people to be the best they can be, whether it's a customer that needs help selling or buying, or whether it's the escrow officer that's overwhelmed, or it's the lender that's too deep and having challenges. And rather than being antagonistic and getting down on them, we got to get the best out of them, right? And I always, when I go to restaurants, I want to make that waiter or waitress my friend because it serves me. Okay, and that may be selfish, but if I can make their day, they're going to want to come back and check on me versus the one that's the pain in the ass, right? So if you're the pain in the ass realtor to the vendors, anybody else, they're going to go away, right? And I see that all the time. You go, ouch, right? They got to really work on their skills. And Mike's famous quote that he's carried down to all of us is, make me feel important to everybody, okay? And give them hope and inspiration. So I think we take that role, and then obviously working on your skills. And they could be as simple when you're starting out as your handshake, but leadership's a skill. What are you doing for your leadership skills? Okay? So skills and mindset is what it really boils down to. And you can never stop learning. I'm in 29 years and I have so much left to learn. So it's exciting to be able to be in that position.
Wow. Keep things in context, right? Yeah. Make people feel important. It's all about the skills and never stop learning. Yeah. Man, I got to tell you, as always, in the interest of time for you, I know you're a busy guy. You're out taking care of things. We could go on for hours, of course, with this, but thank you. Thanks for the time. Thanks for sharing some of this insight for people watching. Thanks for sharing it with me. Yeah. I cannot wait for people to see what you have to offer. We will talk soon.
Tony, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Welcome back. We are at another session of the Bonus Day Superstar Retreat 2020. I am thrilled over the moon to have some time to spend with our next guest. I've known him a long time. Our marketplaces aren't that far apart. An incredible agent, Mr. Scott Tucker. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, Tony. I'm excited about the opportunity, and I hope I can give some bits of information to people to help them along during this time.
There is no doubt about it. I'm sure of that. So let's start out. Let's just start with the basics right away. Where are you from? Who are you? What do you do?
Sure. I'm from Riverside, California, so it's about 40 miles east of Disneyland. We live in our town has 350,000 people in it, the largest shipping hub in the entire country. Once it comes into LA Harbor or San Diego, 40% of the product coming overseas comes through us. So we're the major shipping hub for the entire country.
Wow, so not a huge city, 350,000 people, right? But a
Nope.
major hub.
Yep.
Excellent. So how long have you been in the business, Scott?
We've been in the business for a little over 18 years.
About 18 years, okay.
Yep.
And tell us a little bit about production here in 2020. What are you on track for? Deals, income? What's going on?
Well, actually, it's funny you say that. So we're having the best year we've ever had, in the strangest years I've ever seen, at least. Our goal's 100 transactions and $1 million, and we're at 50 closings as of yesterday, 22 pendings, and we have 13 actively coming on the market or that are getting ready to come to market.
So you're right
So we
there.
have a really good shot. Yeah, we have a really good shot at hitting 100 deals this year.
You're right there. You know, and I
Yeah.
know a lot about you. We've known each other for a long, long time. And one thing I know about you is you made a decision to go in a small independent private company, Scott Tucker and Associates. So tell us a little bit about your journey there.
Yeah, no, for sure. The needle that broke the camel's back is when we were at Prudential at the time. I remember one of the managers coming in and getting mad because he says I was calling on withdrawn listings, which I would never have done. I always do expired or canceled. So after I got done prospecting, I went down to talk to him, and it happened to be an agent that they were thinking about recruiting, and it was a bigger producer in town. So I went down and talked to my manager and said, hey, what's going on? Who did I call? I said, let's look it up in the multiple listing. At that point, he looked at me and said, well, it's actually a cancel, not a withdrawn. At that point, I thought to myself, wow, they should be patting us on the back, not telling us, what a terrible job we're doing. So at that point, we decided to go ahead and make the move and go independent and create that environment that supports what we do and how we work.
Wow. So just a little rub from your broker at that point when you're doing your job right. And it just gets you in a pathway to be where you are now with this business of yours.
I was lucky that happened. Look where we are today.
It's so great. Now you're in the middle of it. One thing we know about Riverside and that core area there where you work, you're in the middle of all the big boys. You've got all the franchises around you, every single one of them. What is your thought process, or what do you do specifically to compete in that arena?
Well, my mindset is there is no competition. Now, there is some great agents in the marketplace, but at the same time, most of these small to medium brokers, we're doing the same volume they're doing with 30 or 40, 50 agents. We're doing that volume with myself and an agent. So I figured there is no real competition. And if I can show the consumer that we're doing more business than most of the brokerages that we're going up against, there is some teams out there that do more business than we do. But at the same time, they've got 20 or 30 agents. At the end of the day, I always looked at it from a profitability standpoint. I don't think there's anybody more profitable than us. And I really don't feel that there is any competition out there except for you're competing against yourself.
Oh, I love the strength of your mindset there. It just comes right through. So you don't really see any competition in your mind. And then you're out producing a lot of these medium-sized companies that are around you. What do you think you attribute that to? How do you outproduce them?
I think we outwork them, personally. I mean, our work ethic is, we're in the office every day at 7:45, and we work until 5 or 6 o'clock. And most agents, you can't get them to answer return a phone call or email till after 11 or 2. So it's just amazing to see that. I think that's really the difference is our work ethic, the schedule we put together. And then obviously you can see behind me the goals that we've set that really drive us.
I like it. And I know this about you. Your work ethic is off the charts, right? And so you're just flat out working the competition. You're there before most of them ever are there. And I know you work after most of them are already gone home for the day. Such a major factor in it, right?
Of course.
See those goals behind you. Do you always do that?
Yeah.
Do you always have those
So,
goals posted up right behind you?
well, so what I do is I do a monthly goal, but last year for the first time I did a dream board. So after 18 years, I'm finally learning something. I put together this dream board, and it's amazing. Here we are, 7 months through the year, and I've already checked off a couple of things that we put in place at the beginning of the year, which is really exciting.
So interesting. You operate the business on these monthly plans, but then
Correct.
after all this time, you decided to go to something Mike Ferry's been asking you to do for a long time, and you went to the visual dream board, and it's right in front of you now.
Yeah.
And having your best year ever.
Slow learner.
No, not in any regard from where I come from with it, right? And this is the thing that I'm most interested about. Here we are, COVID, 2020, all the chaos and all these things going on. It's been, to say the least, it's been an odd year in so many ways. And at the same time, you're having your best year ever. Could you give us all some specific pointers on how that's happening?
It's funny. So we got back from a ski trip in March and found out that this COVID thing's going to hit. The kids are going to have to come home, and everyone's going to have to be working from the house. So Adele and I decided to make a conscious decision that we would not let this affect us, and we would be in the forefront with our clients, and we would work as hard as we need to get, work as hard as we possibly have to get through it. So there was 12 weeks straight from March until May that we didn't take one day off. Literally, if we weren't prospecting or on appointment or showing property, we just decided we were just going to push through. I think I can really see the results of that now. I was on some masterminds with some local agents here in town, and their attitude is we're going to stay inside, not do anything, not make a sell, not open a door. We did all the safety things that we possibly could do, but at the same time, we were out working every single day. And I think that's what really pushed us to the momentum that we have now and having our best year ever.
You know, it's incredible when you were saying it. It reminds me of Mike Ferry back in, I want to say 2008 or 9, in that big crash that we had. We're really just sliding downhill. And I'll never forget, you probably remember this, is Mike Ferry came on a group call, and he said that Sabrina and I were in the car, and he said, we're driving, and he said, we made a decision that in the middle of this, we're not going to let this affect our livelihood, our lifestyle in any way. And I remember them doing exactly what you did. They just straight, flat worked through it. So you worked 12 straight weeks without taking a day off just to get through it.
Yep.
And then did all the results pop right away?
No, I mean, it's like a 90-day cycle. Whatever you do today, it'll show in 90 days. So I think what we're seeing is that tidal wave of us actually working really, really hard, getting or going out and talking to past clients, letting them know what's happening, working expireds, for sale by owners, just all the different sources we work. And it's just like, I don't want to say a tidal wave, but it feels like that. The amount of business that came back was unbelievable. It might have been wasn't a lot of agents working at the time, which we know there wasn't. And maybe the competition was just scared and hiding, which is fine with me.
You'll take it any day. I know you're a fierce competitor that way. So this 12-week window didn't pop right away, but now you're like, you said you have 22 pending. Is that what I heard you say?
22 pending. We have 500,000 in closed commissions. And when I say that, it's not, the agents I have 2 agents that work alongside me, and referral fees. That's what we've earned so far. So it's 500,000. Then we have 268,000 in pending, and 13 coming to market or that are on the market right now.
And how much of that would you say that pipeline, that closed and pending pipeline, came from that 12-week stint?
Probably everything.
It's amazing, right? What you can get done in 90 days if you put your back to it. Right. Was there anything else specific that you did? I understand the work and just grinding it out, but did you make any other adjustments?
A lot less media. We decided to, there was a trainer that was open here in town. So we're training 3 days a week, and I was taking walks and just trying to clear our heads. We're trying to stay away from anything negative. And there was a ton of things out there. You look at anything online, and it's never going to end. It's going to end. It's somewhere in the middle. So I think that's what really pushed us along. Plus, we were able to be home with the kids, which is good and bad, a lot, which is exciting to see them all the time. But at the same time, I know they're probably ready to go back. So that's kind of what we did along the way.
So you jumped into the gym more, got the workouts going. You just completely unplugged from this media that you're being bombarded with, dumped positive stuff in, and just kind of warded off the negativity through that whole window of time.
Yeah.
That's awesome. One thing I know about you is that you took a little heightened view at lead follow-up. So I know that you guys have been just really aggressive. Well, first, let me back up one step. Some people watching might think you have some enormous team with 30 agents sitting on the other side of this camera. What have you got out there?
I've got 2 agents that work alongside me. One of them was actually, he was an older gentleman, so he was gone for the 4 months during the beginning of the COVID. So I had 1 agent working alongside me at that time. We have my wife who oversees the entire office, and she's the broker, a closing coordinator, and a marketing coordinator.
So I hope everybody heard that. You know, so many people, they make this automatic connection. Well, that high of volume, that kind of production, there has to be this whole slew of people. It's just a small, little, tight-knit group of powerful people working together.
Yep.
So great. It's so great. You have a strong prospecting routine that everybody has known and heard about, I'm sure. Run me through it real quick. So in a normal prospecting session, run me through how it works for you.
It's funny, you know, it's the routine, right? So it starts the night before. I take my gym clothes and put them next to the bed. I put out my clothes that I'm going to wear. That way, when I wake up in the morning, it's almost like a no-brainer. Put my shoes on, go for my walk or my training. I have my suit already ready to go. I get to the office between 7:30 and 7:45. Usually I have a role play between 7:45 and 8 o'clock. And then I role play with the guys usually from 8 o'clock until 8:30. We have a real quick production meeting for about 5 or 10 minutes. Kind of go over who's doing what for the day, what's happening, if there's any issues. That way, if I get one of those calls that's like, hey, Scott, did you know about this? I'm already on top of it, and we already know how to handle it. And then we get into prospecting from basically 8:30 to 10, take a 10-minute break, eat an apple, walk around the block, come back in, work until 11:30. 11:30 to 12:30 is lunch, typically. I was doing a lot of door knocking, expires before sale by owners, but that's kind of slowed down. So we're doing more calling in the late afternoon if we don't have an appointment. What I'm noticing, Tony, is over the course of the last couple of months, we're taking 8 or 10 listings per month. We're having to set 25 to 30 appointments. Half of them will cancel. We'll go on 15 of them. So it's one every other day, or maybe one a day. It just matters if I'm working 18 to 22 days per month. So there's not a lot of downtime, which I really like. The busier I am, the better I feel.
For sure. You know what was so great about it is you didn't have to look down at your schedule, look at your notes, go back into, open up your phone to check out your daily schedule. I hope everybody that is watching this really sees the magic in you being able to describe a textbook from the cuff and go all the way through your morning routine like that. There's only one way that can happen. What is it?
Repetitive.
Yeah. The only way that can happen like that, where you know exactly what you're doing at what time, is overcoming that repetitious boredom and really embracing that. The fun part about it is your energy went right up. So I watched your energy go right up when you described it. So you figured out how to overcome that repetitious boredom and do that day in and day out.
Yeah, I think what it is no matter what happens, I have that. So if a deal falls apart, a client gets mad, I don't know, something happens, I still have my schedule, and that is my job. And as long as I work that schedule, I know those results will come. Sometimes it might take longer, and you might have to put more hours in. Sometimes you might have to put more prospecting in, or whatever it is. But at least you have the schedule, and that's the only thing I can really control in the entire business.
It's amazing. No matter what's going on out there, you always have your schedule.
Yep.
It's so awesome. So just a typical coaching world, is there anything that you struggle with in your business right now that you're trying to implement that you're struggling with at all?
And I'm pretty sure most people come up with the same one. It's complacency. What happens is sometimes when you made that $500,000 for the year and you made $300,000 in pending, it's kind of like, hey, should I push as hard as I should, or should I kind of coast? And it's there right now, and I'm really pushing myself to don't coast, push really hard till Thanksgiving, pick your head up, enjoy Thanksgiving, push your head back down and go until Christmas and enjoy a great Christmas. And I look behind here on some of these goals, I want to make sure, like my My kids' college is paid for each year. My son we go to private schools, so those things are paid for. So I think when I have some of those liabilities, it puts more pressure on me to continue going. I didn't tell you this yet, but we bought a new house during this. We're closing escrow in 30 days. So
Primary?
that's going to continue to push primary.
Good for you. There's turning up the heat a little bit. In the middle of COVID, you go buy a new primary residence, and your other residence was really nice, I know. So what a great thing to upgrade. So
That's the wife.
Out of complacency. You've got the
that was the wife getting me out of complacency.
Good. Tell Adele, keep it up, because those goals in front of you and you pushing yourself out to the limits like that, you're not going to slow down, are you?
No, can't.
It's awesome. So let's, like we always do, typical Mike Ferry fashion, we want to get a couple tips. If you were to give this group, this incredible group of agents watching Superstar 2020, what are a couple tips you'd give them?
It's funny, I thought about that because I knew this question would come up. And as simple and as hard as it is, it's call your past clients. I'm on a mastermind group, and we struggle with getting people to call our past clients. And these guys are doing, $1 million, $2 million a year in production, and they won't. I'm not sure what it is. So, I mean, the simple it is, call 4 times, send a postcard 4 times, and email them 4 times. If you did that one simple, basic Mike Ferry system, the results over time are unbelievable. So I think that'd be the biggest thing, is nurture your clients. Call them, email them, send something. I mean, I don't care what it is, just send something. They'll remember you, and when it's time, if you're doing your job, they will reach back out to you, and that'll be another sell, and someone that wants to work with you anyway.
Wow. So just follow the system of Mike Ferry with your past client center of influence. The repetition of that will pay you a lot of money over time.
Plus, it's a great call.
It's awesome. And you mentioned that a lot of people struggle with it. Why do you think people struggle with it?
Because I think most people don't want to bother people. They don't want to look salesy. And I think if you come out with the mindset of, what can I do to help this individual? I get people who call me and say, hey, where do I take my car for automotive? Hey, who does the best painting in town? Hey, I need to get my my yard redone. I mean, so it's not just calling for your home. It's calling for anything and everything. And what doctor do you use? They'll call me for advice. And that's what you want. You want to have that relationship where they feel open enough to call you on, hey, I need to put a trust together. Who do I go to? Obviously, you're always looking for the sell, because that's what we do. But at the end of the day, if you can help them in all aspects of their life, it just makes you a better salesperson when it's time to sell or buy.
It's unreal. That piece of advice right there by itself, for many people watching, would probably make their year if they just took your advice and went forward with it.
Yeah.
This is so great. In the interest of time, we could go on and on, couldn't we, Scott?
Yeah, forever.
Right? In the interest of time, I want to be pure with that. I want to thank you. I know the audience is going to thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to spend some more time with you. Thanks for your time, Scott.
Thank you for the opportunity. I wish everybody the best.
We'll see you soon.
See ya.
Here we are again, bonus day, Mike Ferry Superstar Retreat 2020. And it is my ultimate privilege to really spend some time with a great agent down in Southern California, Mr. Carlos Gutierrez. Welcome.
Thanks, Tony. How are you doing, brother?
Man, I am excited. Anytime I get a chance to spend some time with you, it's a good thing. So let's just jump right in. Let's start out with a little bit of background. Tell them who you are, where you're from, what you're all about.
Carlos Gutierrez here, born and raised in beautiful, sunny San Diego. And I've been in real estate since about 2005. Previous business was radio sales and marketing and PR. And I've been in the business since about 2005. I think it was about August of 25. And, I didn't get into coaching till about 2009. So took me a little bit.
So you came in 2005 out of a radio background, radio sales, right? You had some experience there. Came in 2005, took you a little bit. 2009, you jumped in with us. Let's look a little bit about, where your productivity is, right? Where are you going to land this year with deals and production?
Well, this year, I've been always shooting for about 43 transactions. I am on target for 43 right now. And my goal is already to break $1 million. That was GCI. However, I'm going to break that in net, well over.
Okay. And so, I know you real well, and you've been tracking this goal down for a while. What you're on track to do this year, you've had in your mind for how long?
It's been probably about the last 5 years.
Yes. So 5 years, you've had this vision in mind, and you've kept after it. And this year is the year that it's going to come about, isn't it?
It is. Yes.
I'm excited. And a couple of things that I know about you really leads into the questions that we have that I really believe is going to help everybody watching today on Bonus Day. We have a lot of agents that work in big cities, big competitive markets around the world. And you figured out how to thrive with this just really intense competition. First of all, how many real estate agents are there in your overall marketplace that you work in?
It's over 16,000 agents here in San Diego County, and that's probably about 4.9 million total residents in the county.
So there's just under 5 million residents, and then how many agents?
Over 16,000.
16,000 active agents, or I should say agents.
Agents, yeah. I can't think who's working or not, so.
In a competitive market like that. And so help share some ideas with us. How have you figured out how to thrive in that kind of an environment?
Well, I guess I just, unfortunately, I had to say it. I guess we need something to keep me more focused, more at home, not having distractions. As you know, Tony, I've worked on projects. I have another company, another business that I was involved with more. Now I'm just focusing strictly real estate, my wife, my daughter, my family, health, wealth, and time to enjoy.
So as a real outward guy, which you are, you get high energy all the time. You're saying that one of the reasons you're able to thrive with this competition is that you started to really understand focus?
Yeah, that's what it was.
And how'd you do that?
Well, when the pandemic really happened, we were looking at it, my wife and I and a couple of friends, we want to say the woke ones, basically what's going on, and seeing in California, at least, who was essential and non-essential. And I'm a big believer, everybody is essential. And my job was getting on the phone and talking with you and basically letting people know that, hey, I'm here to help. Are you healthy? Are you well? Is the family okay? What can I do to help serve you? Also, a lot of people were at home, so home projects were taking place. So my job was to basically keep a lot of the people that are my vetted vendors working. So that was what I was doing. And I would ask them, hey, do you know anybody that needs help? Do you know anybody that needs a handyman, a painter, a contractor, roofer, plumber, landscaper, housekeeper? What do you need? Who do you know that needs work done? So that's what I focused on basically. And I started referring a lot of my vetted vendors out. And I started getting calls in business. Hey, I know this person that's thinking of selling. A lot of people moving out of California. So a lot of those referrals were coming in.
Wow. So, in ways, this pandemic shifted for you and actually caused part of this focus.
Yeah.
Right? It kind of forced you into a space where you had to do some of these things. And what I hear is past clients, your vendors, you really, really dug in there, asking them what do they need, what help, and started referring them back and forth.
Exactly.
Excellent work.
Yeah, I wrote down some notes basically that I really needed to come from a place of gratitude and help others get through that time of the lockdown per se. And idle hands are not healthy. So keeping people working, keeping people out, keeping people, meaning out, getting out, working, staying safe, obviously, number one. But number two is basically getting out and working and making sure that they feel good about themselves to be able to help others.
So not only just you understanding you had to be grateful and come
Yes.
from a pure spot of gratitude, which I know a lot about you are, but then you really took on this challenge of keeping people busy.
It was a challenge. And if we're going to be inside, we might as well work. We might as well make those calls, might as well make those contacts and talk to people and hear what's going on around, not only here in San Diego, but around the country.
You know, I'm curious about how many people watching today maybe have similar challenges. You may be a little unfocused, maybe get around, you're out and about, lose track of time, a million things pulling at you in a million directions.
Yeah.
And then you took what many people saw as a real problem, this COVID and all the distress that came with that. And you took that, kind of turned it into your reason, if you will, for focus.
It was a major reason, and it got me from out here to in here.
Huh. It's incredible. So having a breakthrough year in the middle of what many would say was one of the most challenging years all the way around, were there any other specific things that you jumped on doing to make that happen?
I wrote some things down. Basically, it was my mastermind group, I'd say, was something that we were always talking, what's going on here, what's going on there, and what are we saying to our clients, and how are we progressing through this mentally, because this was a really different mindset of, we all had our beliefs from, believing in the pandemic. It was real, true, but believing in a little bit more conspiracy theory to working, to what are we doing? Are we making calls? Are we sending postcards out? Are we doing more social media? Are we sending more videos out? What are we doing to really keep moving forward into helping our clients?
So your mastermind group came even closer during that time?
Oh, very much so. Yes.
Yeah. One thing I know just from knowing what you've been doing there is that it's a great big space. You go all the way from, North County all the way down to the border of Mexico if you want to, right, in San Diego. And you at one point had really tried to cover all of that.
Yeah.
The real significant change that you made in that regard with a big space?
Well, Coach, yeah, and I had to write that one down. Basically, you said, Carlos, quit being an assassin, be more of a sniper. I hate to use that as an analogy. Nevertheless, don't try to go everywhere and you're not happy about having to drive an hour away for a for sale by owner or an expired listing or canceled listing. Why don't you focus more with up to almost 5 million residents? Why don't you focus within maybe 10 to 15 minutes? And I live at the beach on the coast, so I see my back to the ocean, which I live right here on the water, and I see going south, going north, and then going east. If I'm happy going 15, 20 minutes each way, then I feel good about it, And Carlos, make sure that you're wearing your suit every single day. Make sure you're not dressed in your board shorts and your t-shirt, and be ready to go, because it's going to happen and it's game time. And how many times did that happen? And I think, oh God, right now. So I focused more within that smaller space. And then I focused for about 30 minutes a day in Mission Beach, which I have 2,000 addresses in a 2-mile long peninsula that's maybe 300 yards wide in some areas here, but this long peninsula, and focus about 30 minutes a day. And it really paid dividends, definitely, with focusing in that area. I mean, some double ending 2+ millions, 1,750, $3 million right here in my hundreds of yards from my home. So
natural inclination for a lot of people, this big area, all these homes selling, there's 5 million people here. Let's take a listing anywhere we can get our hands on it, running an hour this way, an hour and a half that way. And you made a decision. Like Mike has told us for years, how many people are going to sell their home within, 15, 20, 30 minutes of where you work. And so you made the decision to cut off some of those boundaries and narrow that space down.
Yeah, Coach, it was all you on that one. You said, why don't you think of doing this? And I said, okay. So I had to go into, the MLS and then the dialer and making sure that I took out all those zip codes and really hyper focus on those calls, making sure that I utilize all my skills that I've learned from you and Ron and Sydney and, Mike, and that we've been role playing for years and years, and really focus on each call instead of just a contact. We're going for an appointment to help someone.
Well, there it is, skills. Thank you for that, by the way. But like Mike always says, I clearly know that you did the work. Okay.
Yeah, well, true.
You did the
A little
work.
bit of coaching.
So you touched on skills. And there's something phenomenal that I want you to share with this group, because I believe you did something really special with skills in the last year or so. Could you describe it?
Well, July last year, we started our own mastermind group, basically of doing the listing presentation to doing the objection handlers to doing the pre-qual. And we were doing it every day. And I lasted up to, I believe it was about 9 months. And then I kind of fell off. Nevertheless, we made it 9 months long to doing it every single day. And that was huge.
So you committed to the listing presentation, writing it out or chanting it? What'd you do?
Thank you. Yeah, writing it out every day and then chanting it every day.
So you
had to write it out,
okay.
You videoed it, and then you had to read it out loud also.
So write it out, video it, read it out loud every single day for 9 months.
Every day, and then send it to our mastermind group via WhatsApp.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember when Mike threw down the challenge, but I don't know that many agents that took on the challenge like you did.
So we did it 90 days. So we did it 90 days for each, listing presentation, objection handlers, pre-qual, and then the key points from Ron in regards to the closing statements. And it just, you internalize it. I mean, you do anything it's about 30 to 35 days. By writing it out and verbalizing it, it's going to memory.
What'd you learn from that exercise, a 9-month challenge? What'd you learn?
Well, I learned that you could do anything if you focus and you put your mind to it. And one of the things I was learning from Ron yesterday, Ron's my new coach, Ron Cronin. One of the things he said, when you're talking to your sellers and you're talking to your wife or you're talking to your child, just when they want something, we all want something. So what's the end result? What do you ultimately want from that? And what is that going to do for you? What is it going to look like? How is that going to benefit you? Other than listing your home now and thinking, oh, I got to get it cleaned. I got to get boxes. I got to move. I got to do this. What's the ultimate goal? So mine was, I've been wanting to make $1 million net for the last 5 years. So with that, I go, I know if I do this, I will get this. So I started thinking about this in the long term and going, if I do this, I'm going to get that. And it's paid off. And it is paying off every single day.
It's so great. So basically locking in on what do I ultimately want from this anyway.
Right.
And that caused you to do some of the front end work that you needed to do.
Exactly.
It's great. So tell me, what are you working on now? Like what are you excited about working on in your business these days?
Well, working on my business here, it's basically mindset, gratitude, mastermind group, working basically on the skills, working on my schedule every day, and working every night before the next day comes. And I write down all the things that I didn't do for the day before and go back days before to make sure I didn't drop off any leads, but making sure that I'd stay diligent to focusing on every single client and every person I spoke to making sure that I said that I was going to do something, that I do it. Because people get so many calls a day, and how many really follow up? And I know that there's a lot of people out there that talk to all the people, and you miss out on leads that you forget and you didn't write down, and you lose out on 10, 20, 30. And mine, it's like averages 20 plus thousand. And I get more excited now for every transaction I do, being with the company that I'm with and allowing me to do that. I get really, really excited.
So you're excited about the money, obviously, but what I heard in there is that now every night you're getting clear. Did I follow up with everyone that I was supposed to? Who do I need to follow up with tomorrow? Boy, if people watching this today did that one thing and just spent a little time looking over who they were supposed to follow up with and who they're going to follow up with tomorrow, that's huge in the big picture.
You have to remember, one of the things that I've done now is I've upped my marketing, I've upped my video. And with that, part of that package is that I will have a testimonial tied into the end of that. So at the end of the transaction with the seller and now working more with the buyer, that I'm going to get them on video to give me a little 1-minute video clip that then I can share with different people. Because, I mean, we know buyers and sellers, and most everybody wants to sell. They want it easy. They want to get the most amount of money. Just think if you had a library of 10, 15, 20 of those types of various types of people with their personality, with a testimonial that you can use for that next person, especially the ones in the neighborhood. I just got a referral from one. I got a call from a lady that her son and I went to school together. We're friends on Instagram. He lives in Oahu. I haven't seen him for 30 some years. She wants to move to him to be with him during the pandemic. She called me and I said, she was really concerned about, people coming to her home. I go, why don't you FaceTime me? Just pull out your phone, give me a little, okay, great. We did it right there. I took the listing, 6%, and she just referred me somebody. The one thing I missed out on was getting my video guy over there to get her on video, because she referred me to someone and I could have just sent the clip and it would have been awesome because I would have nailed that listing, but she wants to interview some other agents. Nevertheless, now I'm thinking I need to get this on every single transaction.
What a great idea. What a great idea. Well, in the interest of time for these things, what we're going to do is I would like you to share, what is the one thing that you would like everybody that's watching this, that's going to attend the Superstar Retreat, what's the one tip or piece of advice you want to give them?
Well, come from gratitude. Mike always says it. What other business/career could we have with the opportunity to make as much money and to help as many people by getting paid by the service that we provide to people? What other career is there? So I feel very grateful to be selling real estate in San Diego, to be selling real estate with one of the top companies in the country, and to be able to get paid at the high level of the service that I provide. So upping your service would have to go with that, besides gratitude at all time. You get what you give. So I say give as much as you can.
Gratitude and service. Boy, I hope everybody wrote that down. Carlos, we could go on for hours, of course. We could go on and on. There's just so much to do, so much to learn. I want to thank you for spending a few minutes with me today. And let's make sure that everybody takes advantage, take some good notes on this. Carlos, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Coach.
Welcome back. Here we are, continuing on with our bonus day interviews with some of the best agents in North America. And I am over the moon excited about the time I get to spend right now with somebody that many of you have known for a long, long time. Some of you are going to get to meet for the first time. Roxanne DeBerry, I am pleased to have you here.
Thank you, Donnie.
So we're going to jump right in. Why don't you take a second to get started? Why don't you share with everyone watching today a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do?
Well, I sell real estate, for sure. I'm from Dallas, Texas area, actually a little town called Plano, North Dallas is where I'm doing. And I've been selling real estate for a long time. Okay. And that's pretty much all I do is real estate.
So you've been selling real estate for a long time in the same spot, North Dallas, Plano, that area. And that's kind of just been your home. For how long have you been living here in this part of the world?
I moved to Dallas in 1974.
Okay.
And in 1975, I got my license. So I'm kind of same as Mike. We're 45 years into it.
It's so great. It just lines right up, a 45th anniversary in the business, and you guys are both having 45th anniversary in the business at the same time. It's great. It really is great. So let's talk a little bit about volume. You've been doing a lot of business for a long, long, long time. For example, this year, what are you on track? What are you thinking to do in terms of deals and income this year?
Well, my team and I normally do between 130 and 150 deals. Mm-hmm. This year's going to be a little different, but not bad. Okay. My goal is, I hope the team and I will do between 100 and 110. That's what we're shooting for. And that'll bring me over $700,000. So
great. So in the middle of this crazy year, 2020, with all the curveballs that have been thrown at us, you normally do this 130 transactions with the team year after year, and you're tracking between 100 and 110 this year.
I'm on track for over 100, yes.
Congratulations. With all things considered, that is a phenomenal, really, accomplishment in the middle of 2020 for sure. One thing I know about you, you've known each other for a long, long time. We've prospected, we've been in these environments, we've been to just all these retreats over the years. And I know that you have, over the years, developed quite an incredible past client and center of influence database. How much of your business will come from there?
How do I what?
How much of your business will come from your database?
70%.
Yes. Right? And it's well earned. 45 years in the business, you've been just working away and you've created this. So for those of us watching that don't have maybe 45 years experience and this incredible database, what are some pointers you might give us all of how to get this thing rolling so someday we can all get 70% of our business from our database?
Well, for the new people starting out, every time they sell somebody a house, every time they talk to somebody they want to put in their database to call and check in with, that's how you start it. Mine is mostly people I sold homes. Some of it was center influences. Some of it was vendors. But I just kept adding to it. And then as the years, but Mike taught me that we needed to do this if you want to grow the business too, so you have to fall on. But Tony, I'm going to be real honest with you. If it wasn't for this, I don't know that I would be having as good of a year, because most of my business comes from there. And all I did, I never stopped prospecting. I made all my calls. I talked to 100 people, 100 of my past client center food stuff a week, and I never stopped it. So I just kept doing it, and they just keep coming back to me and asking for business, give me business.
So you started did you jump on this right away? So in your first couple of years of the business, did you start gathering and collecting people right away and putting them into your database?
No. I wish I had a coach long before I did. Okay. I wished I had met Mike long before I did. Right. But no, I really wished I had done that. I wish I had treated my business more as a business long before I started that too. But now the first 20 years probably, Tony, I did what everybody else does, just sort of figure out, do something, make some money, and move on.
So really, for the first 20 years of your career, you kind of did it like most agents, make a little money here and there, figure it out one day, 1 week at a time, right? Move along.
Yes, sir.
And then you run in, is that when you ran into Mike Ferry?
I went to Mike Ferry seminar in 1996. Mm-hmm. And then I joined One-on-One, which was One-on-One then, but then it's, a Premier, it's changed names. Yep. I've been doing that since 2000.
Okay, so you went through the first part of your career, which is like most of us, just kind of going along. Yes. And then in 1996, you ran into Mike. You shortly after jump into One-on-One, which is Premier now. And then that's when you started really putting this database together?
Probably about right that time. And the coachings from Mike Ferry said, Roxanne, you've got a huge database. Are you calling them? I mail things to them, Tony. Mm-hmm. Mailing is great. Mm-hmm. But it's not the same as a phone call. It's not the same as you actually talking to them. And I know texting and emails are great, and they work, but the phone call is still the number one to me. And making contact to them is really important. I just love talking to my past clients and Mike says, really know them. I know most of my people, what they do. I know their kids. I've gone through some of them all the way into college now. Been through the total marriages, and I just keep track of all that, and I always talk to them about it.
So what's fun is your face lights up when we talk about this, about talking to your past clients. At the same time, we know a lot of people that struggle with calling. They'd rather just mail and email and not talk to these people. So did you have to overcome this in any way, or was it just natural from the beginning?
That was natural for me. What's not natural is calling for semi-owners and expires, and I give anybody credit for do that. What I get to do is fun. It's enjoyable. I look up every day getting up, wow, who am I going to talk to today? I open my computer and my program comes up, tells me how many calls I need to make and who I'm going to call. And it's exciting.
Wow. So you've always kind of enjoyed it. You know a lot about these families, their kids at some times, right? And you just see it as a fun part of the day to pick up and call these people. So you've got the mail going, you do emails and then the phone calls. Is there anything else you do with this database to really work it?
We send a monthly newsletter to all my past clients.
Okay.
Mike says mail something quarterly. I use Valerie's card that she had, and I send it out twice a year. And I give a calendar at Christmas time I mail. But mostly, Tony, is picking up the phone and talking to them.
Geez, you know what's so great is so many people watching this are gonna realize how they maybe struggle with this, and it doesn't mean you didn't start out this way, but there was a point where you shifted this way, and now look at 70, 80 deals a year are going to come right out of your database each and every year. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. You know, the other thing that I know about you is that you've been doing this for a long time, and you're always so excited and goal oriented. So for all these years, you know, many people, they sell real estate for 5 years and they want to crawl in a hole and they're done, right? You've been selling all this year. How do you keep excited one year to the next like you are today?
Well, I have to think about that a little bit. I don't know. I get up every day and it's exciting to know who am I going to call? Who am I going to talk to? Who can I help? I love doing what I do because I love helping people. And as everybody knows, I like to talk, so I get to talk.
Okay, so you love it. It's what you do now. You get up, you love helping people, and you love to talk, so you just jump in. Do you have any tips that you can share about goal setting for the people watching?
Well, Mike started me on that because honestly, in the 90s and early 2000s, I thought that was kind of not so good.
Okay.
But Mike taught me to do it, keep my analyzer, which I keep up to date every week with my coach. And we go through the things, and that helps me pin down the areas I need to work a little better on than I don't on the others. But honestly, goal setting, you have to do that, or how do you know you made where you want to go?
Okay.
How do you know you got where you want to go? If you don't
So are
set
most of your goals by just tracking the numbers, set of transaction goals and that, and then tracking them in the analyzer? Is that how you do it? Or?
But the one real goal that I really love is traveling.
Okay, good. So you're feeding your travel addiction through this real estate business.
I work so we can travel, and I love it.
Okay. So in this year, how have you done this? You know, most of us have been shut down, and we hadn't been able to travel, and certainly not overseas, and we were restricted for quite a while this year. How have you handled that as a traveler, not being able to jet set around this year?
Well, it's not great, but we did do a family vacation. We went to Tucson, Arizona to a dude ranch, all 20 of us, and we had a ball.
Okay, so you had a little family vacation. 20 of you went on a little dude ranch. Okay, so you found your way to travel even in the midst of all this.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and have you guys put some travel plans back in your future?
Yes, next year we have another big trip.
Very good. So really, the driving force a lot of times is for you to get to see the country and the world.
I get to see the world, Tony, and I get to help wonderful people.
It's so great. It's so great. You know, sometimes we, in the coaching side, we have to like draw some enthusiasm out of people that we work with. And here I get on with you and you're fired up, and it's not a problem at all, right? So here's a question I always like to ask for people doing it a long time. If you had to go back and start this thing all over again, what advice would you give us? What would you do different?
Well, for sure, I would have found a coach a lot faster than I did.
Okay.
And I wished I had done that because the coach gives you guidance, it gives you direction, it helps you to do what you need to do. But most importantly, Tony, it holds you accountable. And that's, to me, the I don't know, you need somebody to hold you accountable. I do, everybody does. So being held accountable, and I'm very much of a competitor with myself. So when I want to do something, I really try to compete to do it. So being held accountable is very important to me. I wish I'd, like I said, done it a lot sooner, or even knew about it sooner. Back in the 70s and 80s, that wasn't a big deal then. So now it is. So I was really, you all were so lucky to have it all, really. And I would have treated it better as a business. And would have hired more assistants up front sooner, not because I was doing 50 deals by myself pretty consistently even before I met Mike. But I never could get to a next level until Mike showed me how to do it. And that's what I did.
You touched on something there that's very important. So looking back, you figured out how to do 40, 50, 60 transactions all by yourself, which is astounding. And some people watching are going to be, I just know, are going to be astounded by that. But you resisted staffing and delegation for a while.
Just thought if you could do it by yourself, and you can't.
And so now, knowing what you know, the idea of finding a good staff person as you're growing the company, delegating all the things that you shouldn't be doing, right, would make the business grow a lot faster for someone?
Oh, I think it would make it a lot faster because they could then concentrate, they could concentrate just on what they're supposed to do. I mean, Donnie, I don't do anything but listings. I prospect, I go on listing appointments, I list homes, I negotiate contracts, and I love that, Mike. Sorry, I'm not giving it up.
Good, it's fair.
And I mean, that's all I do. I don't have to do administrative work. I don't run the office. I don't have buyer's agents that are 100% full-time on that. And I found out I could do what I really like to do. And I think that's why I love the business I do.
So you've gotten it to a point where you're simply just doing the parts of it that you really like to do, and you've handed off the parts that aren't so much fun.
I don't think I wrote a contract in over 20 years.
It's so great to hear that, because, you know, we have a lot of people that are, you know, we'll say control freaks. They have a hard time letting go of some of these details. They have to write every contract, pull every comp, do every piece of paper, right? And I
do my market analysis myself.
Yes, okay.
I just do the market analysis and get the listing, basically. But if you do it the right way, like Mike teaches us, like Mike says, a listing is the ending of a great presentation, right?
Well, there's a gem in itself. The listing is the end of a great presentation, which I know you've learned how to do. Did you have to put a lot of work in your listing presentation?
Absolutely. You got to put a lot of work in everything you want to do great.
Okay, and so obviously you didn't start out with a world-class presentation. What are a couple things you did over the years to get your presentation up to where it is now?
Practice, going on appointments, learning from your mistakes, doing what you did wrong and correcting it. But just follow Mike's thing. I mean, Tony, you know Mike's system works. You prospect for years and never missed. So it's just what it is.
There's no doubt the system is there. It's all kind of laid out for us. Just follow what's laid out for us. You don't have to put a whole lot of special thought in it. Just do what it says to do. Yeah. So I want to look at one little other area in our great time together. You've been to these retreats and events live for years and years and years, and now here we are in a virtual environment. What keeps you coming back? We've got a virtual one. You can't go, you know, the physical nature of it's a little different for a lot of people, but what has kept you coming back to Mike Ferry events for all of these 20-some years coming back?
Well, let's see. You asked me that questions. I can tell you something here. I have been to 24 superstar retreats, counting the one coming up. I've been to 20 production retreats, and I try to do at least one other thing during the year because I need the reinforcement. I need the accountability pushed on me. I need the motivation. And the people you're around when you go to these places are so energizing. Mm-hmm. And I think I do really good, but when I get out there with some of those people, I feel like a little peanut.
Okay.
Because they do so much more.
You get fired up, you get energized, you get remotivated, then you see some people, you're like, whoa, I could do a lot more.
Well, you can see when we're at Mike says, when we're at our homes, we're usually the biggest person in the office or one of them. When you go out to the retreats, you're not. You're one of the smaller ones, and you look up to the ones that do so much, and you learn from them. So going back to it, you learn from them. And of course, Mike keeps drilling it in your head to do this and over doing it. And you come to just doing it then, naturally, automatic. You don't even think about it.
So we all need to hear some things several times before we take action on them?
Several hundred times.
For sure. Well, here's one question that I didn't write down that I just dawned on me while we're talking. We have a lot of people that are going to the retreat in a virtual format. They're going to see it from their office or from their living room or somewhere like that. What kind of advice would you give people to get the most out of the next 2 or 3 days here with the Superstar Retreat coming? What do you think they should do?
Well, my agents are going to meet together and watch it together.
Okay.
So that helps. They can talk and generate. If you can get with another person you know that doesn't like fairy, it might be help to talk. It's going to be different because you're not around all those people out there together. So I say just listen really good. Go back and review your notes. Go back and listen to it again. I don't know, something like that, because it's going to be a little harder to learn on a virtual tour,
So you've got to learn to focus, right? We've asked some people to, get rid of the cell phone, be texting the whole time, remove yourself from those emails, get in a distraction-free environment, tell your clients and your customers maybe that you're going to be involved in an event and you can't respond right away, right? You can get in that space where you can learn in your own living room, in your own office.
Well, and open your mind to learn. Yes, it's different. Yes, Tony, this whole year's been different for everybody, but you know what? The ones that wanted to succeed will succeed because they learn to go the right places, learn to do the right things, go to talk to the right people. Who tells us that the ones you hang around with is the most important? So, yes.
I hope everyone heard that. If you really want to succeed, you will succeed. It's a decision you make. You choose to do that. So I hope everybody is choosing right now, or maybe starting to choose, or recommitting to choose to succeed. It's just a choice, like everything else. We could go on and on. We've known each other for so long. We could go on and on for hours. But in the interest of time in this, we're going to have to kind of end this and get a chance to have everybody sink into the notes and the great points you've given. I want to thank you. It's been special for me to spend a little time with you. And I can't wait. We'll all see each other again together at some point in the future. But let's all make this an incredible retreat. Thank you so much, Roxanne.
And we'll see you later.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks, Tony.
Welcome back. It is bonus day, the bonus day of the 45th anniversary Superstar Retreat for Mr. Mike Ferry. And I am tickled to death for this next little few minutes we get to spend with somebody that I've known for a long time. We've been around business for a long time, but what a treat it is for all of us to spend a little time with Mr. Ren Jones from Vulcan 7. Welcome, Ren.
Thank you, Tony. Good to be here.
Man, we are so excited. This is a little unique for us. We get to spend some time with someone that has a little business that's so closely connected to what we do here at MFO. So let's start with a little bit. We'll start with, take a couple minutes. Tell us who you are, what you do, and what you're about.
Ren Jones, CEO at Vulcan 7, which provides numbers and ways to contact sellers for the real estate industry.
So we've got a platform that gives our great agents tools to use in real estate.
Yes.
And then, so, Mike was asked me to ask a few of these questions because he knows so much about your background and your history. Yeah. He says, you built a really successful real estate business in Richmond, Virginia. Tell us a little bit about how that came about and when and all that.
Yeah. Well, I started off like most agents did and was selling real estate and holding open houses, did some geographic farming. And after about 2 or 3 years in, I was like, it's so unprofessional. It's pathetic. It's a lot of work, nights and weekends, and for very low return. It was painful. I'm like, I got to find something better to do. This is just nuts. And because I was doing all the right things according to, if you look to the left and the right of what everybody else is doing, like this is just holding lunches for agents to come into the house, and none of them ever brought an offer. It's like, this is crazy. So my broker at the time, Richard Buckingham, came over and said, I know, Ren, you're doing great. You sold 19 homes last year, but I want you to come listen to this guy. His name is Mike Ferry. He's going to be in town. We've got about 300 people coming, and I want you to be there. I think you're going to like what he has to say. And I said, I'm open. I'll go. So I went. I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. And so I came in, sat about 2/3 of the way back and listened for a while. And I was like, oh my God, we can run this like a business. It can be you're pre-qualifying. You're the whole thing. You're following a schedule. You have a business plan. Oh my goodness, this can be done this way? Because I was about to give up on it. I was excited. After the first break, I moved up closer to the front and I started taking notes. I'm like, woo! And it was pretty exciting. And then by the end, I was sitting in the front and I'm like, this is great. And then he said, we're having a superstar retreat in the desert in August. Because back then they were in August in Palm Desert. I got to be there. So I didn't have any money at the time. I was like a typical real estate agent, You make some money, pay all your bills for the last 4 months that you're behind, and then you're back to normal again. So it's painful. And so on a coupon for $160, I was able to fly out and back on a coupon that I got for my telephone service. It was a little credit, so I didn't have to pay much for the flight. Stayed at Marriott Rancho Las Palmas, shopped at the grocery store, Vaughn's, and ate in the room because we had no money. But I was hooked. I gotta learn more. And there were other people like Steve Powers who were doing the same thing. They're on a shoestring. We're all broke, but we knew this would work. And we were there, right, sitting as close to the front as we can, writing notes. People were waiting in line at 4 a.m. to get in, 4 a.m, and they'd open the doors at 7:30. I'm like, people are excited. And I was excited. I was taking notes and then at the end, he had programs you could buy, and I'm like, I gotta have more. I was on the drug. I found a little cup of Kool-Aid, Tony. It was down under the chair, and I took a sip, and I splurged $80, and I got my superstar retreat. As you can see, it's brand new. Got the gold star, 1993, the 1993 edition of the Superstar Sales Retreat. I played it over and over. The gal I was dating, she's like, do we have to listen to this over and over? Like, riding in the car over and over. You say, yes. And then she got in the business. Because wow. It's like, if you listen to this material, you're going to get hooked. Because you can have money and time to enjoy it.
Man, it's so great. And, we hear this story so often that, there are so few agents that come up that have silver spoon in their mouth. This is working people. These are people that like the words work and they like the word schedule and they are drawn to that. And
I like rich.
It's one of the ones drawn in, right?
I like wealthy.
Wealthy and rich.
Work is fine, but wealthy is even better. And you have to do both.
So great. So you really got involved in the very early 90s. And then tell me what you did with the business. Where did you take the business in terms of deals and volume and all this back in Richmond?
Yeah, I mean, like everybody, it's, what do they say? It takes a while to become an overnight sensation. It takes a few years. So, we got to 45 transactions, then to 80 transactions and 100. Once you get over 100, it's easier. I know that sounds weird, but once you get over 100 transactions, easier. So it started kind of hovering around 150 to 180 transactions.
Mm-hmm.
You take 12, 15 listings a month, and you just get a little routine about it because it's highly efficient, and it's you're working mostly on the seller side of the business. So and again, I had money and the time to enjoy it. I feel like I stopped working on weekends. I can count on one hand how many times I worked on a Saturday over that long 16 years. 3 years of pain, 13 years of money and time to enjoy it. It was great.
So great.
Yeah.
Great. So you built this thing up, you built this business up doing 150, 180 transactions. You got your weekends back, really life of dreams. And then you moved to Cincinnati. So tell me about going from Richmond to Cincinnati, how and why?
Well, there are a variety of reasons. Okay, at that point, I'd been doing it 16 years. Mike, as he did with some of his top people, he pulled me in and said, coach, try coaching. I like this is fun. So when you're doing the Mike Ferry system, you're highly efficient. You have time to do other things. You can take 12, 15 listings in a month and still have time in the day to do things. So he said during the dead time of the day from like right after lunch until about 2:30 or 3, coach. Oh. So I started doing some of that, and that worked well. And I'm like, I like this a lot. And then I noticed people like Marilyn Lair and other people were moving from one city to another, and the business is very portable. They'd leave there and they moved to another city. I think she moved to Dallas, and within like 24, 36 months, she was actually making more money than she was where she was originally. So like, unlike any other way of selling real estate, the Mike Ferry system is portable. You can live anywhere. And now people would say, why would you pick Cincinnati? And so I get it. But I have all my family was living there, and I had a lot of friends there, and I was going back and forth there many times. And, grandmother, aunts and uncles, parents, sister, all these people, and they would get together every Sunday, and I was kind of missing life. I'm like, well, the Mike Ferry system's portable. I like doing coaching. What I could do is I could go there, I can coach, and I could just do, knock it down to just taking one listing, do one sale a week, 4 transactions, 50 transactions, and make about the same amount of money. Just do a lot more coaching and do that. And that seemed like a good mix. And so I did that. And, again, your first year and a half, you got to learn the market and whatnot, but really under the Mike Ferry system. And we've seen like Kim Ackerman, who moved to Atlanta 2 years ago. She's blowing it up there, taking 8 listings a month. It's very portable. And we've seen a lot of people move from like Chicago to Florida. Can't imagine why. So
it's so neat that you bring up portable, and it's a system. So there's this whole system that has components to it that are pretty much universal. You learn the market, you get your feet wet. So you went from this big business, and then you decided to get involved with coaching at a high level, move to Cincinnati where the family is, and then you crank up your business. You're doing a deal a week. We've got a lot of people watching this that go a deal a week. That would be incredible. I would love to do a deal a week.
Well, if you're closely involved, you get it to that level of efficiency. Buyers take time, listings take skill. So it was all listing business. It's all listing business. That
Did you hear that watching? I want to interrupt. Buyers take time, listings take skill.
Yeah.
Man, if you don't catch that one, for those of you who are vacillating back and forth between buyers and sellers.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Because knowing what we know now, when you get really good at this, you could work, you could work very part-time. You could work 2 hours a day and sell 50 homes. I know it sounds a bit sophomore, but it is true. Once you get to a certain point, you can do that. You can take a listing every week, very part-time. Yeah, but that's because of a highly efficient skill level. Wow. Compared to a sport like golf or something like that, you can take forever to get to the green, or if you get really good at it, you can get there pretty quickly. So,
I like where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So we move along to this, and you've had this long time experience with Mike and MFO. Can you help some of the ins and outs of your experience? Tell me about your this long-term relationship with Mike Ferry and the Mike Ferry organization.
Well, it's a way of life. You know, it's the Mike Ferry. What I find fascinating is while there are people that teach what Mike Ferry teaches outside of real estate, nobody in real estate, every other form of coaching and training seems to pander to the weakness of a person and want to tell them what they want to hear. Although this type of system where you're following a schedule, you have accountability, you're prospecting, all of those things are, while they're like, nobody else will discuss that in real estate. Other industries, that's what they do. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it's Marriott Corporation or whoever it may be, that is how they run their business. That is the professional way. And nobody in real estate outside of Mike Ferry, and I've looked under every rock, it doesn't exist, you know, except in a cursory way.
Ah, yes. And so then
it's a way of doing life. It's a way of doing, our company is run under the Mike Ferry system. Vulcan 7 is run using the Mike Ferry system. While we're very profitable, very efficient at everything, they learn. Some of them are in premier coaching, you know. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they're there. They're involved in Mike Ferry coaching and more our people are getting more and more involved in the Mike Ferry coaching and training because it's a way of running a company very efficiently.
Excellent. So the system, the Mike Ferry system is universal. Yes. So there's another major transition that happened not so long ago for you in your career. You developed Vulcan 7. Tell us about why and how that came about. Well,
you know, it's for a pain point that occurred where every year it was harder and harder to reach sellers. You have to be able to talk to people, and it took a lot of work to be able to reach them. So I sat down one day and I'm like, I got to figure this out. So I opened up 10 tabs and I was able to manually find 90% of the sellers, but it took some time. And I was like, I can automate this, you know? And so I automated it for myself and I like, you know, I could sell this to top players for $600 a month. We ended up cutting that in half because there was an expired service, but you were ended up talking to the listing agent. You're getting their landlines only. It was pretty screwed up system at the time. And like, this would be an advanced system because what you don't want to do is spend all your time. You want to be able to just talk to people. You don't want to have to like spend all your time doing administrative work, trying to find a way to talk to people. So then it was born, and I called up my very good friend who lives 4 hours down the road, Bernie Gallerani. And I said, Bernie, I'm coming down. I want you to check this out. I want you to just try this. See what you think. I built it for myself, but I want you to check it out. He goes, whoa, this is amazing. And then I said, so don't tell anybody, with a smile. And then, Bernie tells John Ames, who tells Brianne Llewellyn, and it goes, pretty soon, the front 2 or 3 rows at Mike Ferry events are all my customers. And I'm like, you know, because good news travels fast. Like, you're going to save time. And it's not just the quality of the data, the whole system kind of flows. So you can do your job and not spend 3 hours screwing around. You can do your job. Mm-hmm. So it became used by like 40 or 50 or 60 of the top Mike Ferry agents. And I guess just over time, our phone just rang off the hook. And still, my biggest fear was our competition would find out some of our trade secrets and copy us, but they haven't yet. So it's interesting.
So yours came out of pain. You're an active agent. You're an active agent, and it's pain. You're trying to look up all these people. You're trying to figure out how to get a hold of somebody to find a seller. So you got to develop this thing for yourself, and then it spread like wildfire through some of the top agents, and here we are today. Right. It's excellent. So just out of your own desire initially, this whole thing was born. Good for you. Good for you. Now you have the luxury. You have the luxury of coaching both Mike Ferry trained agents and just agents. You sell your products and services to people that want to buy it. Anybody that wants to get in there involved. Of course, you sell those to people, but you get the luxury of seeing both sides of the fence. So what do you notice as a differences between, you know, the Mike Ferry trained agents and agents that are not trained with a coach?
Turnover.
What is it?
turnover.
Okay.
Churn. In other words, they're like gone.
Okay.
They get excited. They call, they sign up because they see somebody down the hall in their office, or maybe they went to an event and there's a Mike Ferry person in there that's doing really well with it, whatnot. And then they think it's, just because they buy the hammer doesn't make them a carpenter,
Mhm.
So they've got that, but they don't know what to do with it. And so they're lost. And so in 90, 120 days, they're gone. If they're Mike Ferry trained, and especially if they're in coaching. If they're in coaching, they're a client of ours for 5, 6, 8 years, and they make a lot of money. If they're not in coaching, if they're like a seasonal visitor, it can be a little rocky because it's just human nature. If you don't hone that skill, you're gonna go like this.
So a lot of the real estate industry, and Mike will be the first to say it, the turnover, the new licensees that never survive the business, 1 out of 3
Right.
disappears, and maybe it's a little more than that now.
Right.
You experience that same thing in your own company with turnover, from the difference between being coached, Mike Ferry trained agents, and not. There's a high turnover because they come and go. Gosh, we could sure appreciate that on our end. So just in the interest of time, time goes so fast when we're talking to great people. I want to have you just think of one piece of advice. If you had one piece of advice about getting a business going, growing your company, doing something, what's the advice you'd like to give to the folks watching this today?
I know there's a human tendency, especially in our industry, it sets in about 4 months into when you join the real estate industry. We call it's like a disease. It's called independentitis. Like, I'm going to do it my way. Oh, I would never use a script. I'm going to do that. I'm only going to sell to my friends. And whatever you come up with, the problem is, don't reinvent the wheel. If you can follow best practices, and I don't know a way to do best practices on your own. The best thing you can do is get involved to the level that you've got somebody every week holding you accountable on a one-on-one basis. And if you do that, you're going to save years of pain. I've been through it. Years of pain. Just pay. I know it's $1,000 a month, but 20 years ago it was $1,000 a month. Now, so basically it's half price now, because that dollar is $1,000. People blow $1,000 on, cappuccinos and lattes from Starbucks and all kinds of knucklehead things, where if you spent the money on that, you get a return. You'll make 20,000 more because of that 1,000 that you spent. I mean, it's best practices, and you'll accelerate at such a rate of speed. It's safety. I would do it for safety. It's a safer way to live. It's safer. You're guaranteeing the safety of the fact that you're going to have a consistent income, and versus being like some rudderless boat, you're going to drift otherwise.
That is so great. Find the series of best practices that will work.
Yeah.
Stick to those, and you're safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could. It's just too risky to be on the other side.
Wow, you could not sum it up any better than that. Well, listen, I got to tell you, I wish I could spend hours with you. We don't get to spend enough time together.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of what's going to be the best retreat of the year for most people, 45th anniversary. We've got Mr. Ren Jones from Vulcan 7. What a phenomenal chance to look behind the curtain with you and your company. Thank you so much for your time and spending a little time with me today.
Thank you, Tony. Good to see you.